Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read Parshas Vayera. And the Parsha begins, Vayera Elav Hashem Elonei Mamrei V'hu Yoshei Pesach Al Kechol Yom. Avram Avinu was sitting in Elonei Mamrei. He's dwelling right now in Elonei Mamrei, and he was sitting at the entranceway of the tent in the heat of the day. Rashi HaKodesh says, what's going on over here? What's happening? Why is Kadosh Baruch Hu coming to visit him? And Rashi says, Levakir Sachola. Remember again, at the end of last week's Parsha, we read of the incredibly heroic, physical, and spiritual feat of Avram Avinu circumcising himself at an advanced age. And so Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Parsha opens up with the mitzvah Bikur Cholim. Hashem is visiting the sick. Hashem is visiting, recuperating, and recovering Avram Avinu. But then Rashi adds in a fascinating statement. Rashi quotes the Gemara Bab Metzia, Amar Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina, Yom Shlishi Lemilaso Haya. Rashi gets a bit more specific. Not only did HaKadosh Baruch Hu come to visit Avram Avinu after the Bris Milah, but he came to visit him on day number 3. So the shaila is, what's significant about day number 3? So the Sisei Chachamim, commentary on Rashi, writes as follows. He says, Ki az niskaber hacholi. He quotes the Gemara that explains that apparently the 3rd day post-circumcision is the most painful one. And therefore, again, therefore, it makes sense to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Avram Avinu on day number 3 when the pain was most acute. It's an interesting piece of information that Rashi is adding in over here. So again, not only did Hashem appear, but Rashi adds in, when did Hashem appear? He appeared to Avram Avinu 3rd day post-circumcision. Again, why 3rd day? Day in which recovery pain is most acute, and that's when Hashem appeared to Avram Avinu. But the great tzaddik, the Shart Kaver Rebbe, has a different insight. He understands this 3rd day concept in a little bit of a different way. And the Rebbe says as follows, and this is so incredibly beautiful. He says, Avram Avinu b'meichal yo hay bebechinas chashav la'asos mitzvah v'ne'enas v'lo asa. Avram Avinu, what was most difficult for him when he was recovering from the Bris Milah was his inability to perform the mitzvah of hachnasas archen. Avram Avinu was kula chesed. His entire essence was chesed, was bestowing acts of kindness upon other people. And Avram Avinu just wants to host. You remember again, his hospitality was not just simply feeding people in a physical sense, but the hospitality represented the opportunity to engage people in meaningful religious and spiritual and theological dialogue. Avram Avinu was a person who just wanted to keep giving and giving and giving to others. And so after the Bris Milah, when he was in pain and recovering, he was very upset, very distressed about an inability to perform the mitzvah of hachnasas archen, hospitality, and do chesed. So the Rebbe quotes that there's a concept in halacha that chashav la'asos mitzvah v'ne'enas v'lo asa. If a person wants to perform a mitzvah, but for whatever reason was precluded from doing so due to circumstances beyond his control, ma'ala alav HaKadosh Baruch Hu ki lo asa. Hashem counts it as if he performed the mitzvah. If you really want to do something, but because of circumstances beyond your control, you can't, HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it, gives you the credit as if you performed the act. So get ready for this. Ki yishtokek ma'od lahachnis archen b'tzel karasa. So what did Avram Avinu want? What did he want more than anything? He wanted to be able to invite people into his home. Ach ish lo chalaf al pesach beisov me'achol. But remember again, as the Torah tells us, Rashi actually comments on this, there were no guests. There were no travelers. Why? Kadosh Baruch Hu made it so brutally hot. Hotzi chama minartika. He allowed the sun to blaze with such intensity that no one was out. And Hashem did that for Avram Avinu. That Avram Avinu shouldn't be bothered with hospitality. Avram Avinu should have time for his own convalescing. But yet Avram Avinu was distressed because now all this time is going by and he doesn't have the ability to give. He doesn't have the ability to do it. He doesn't have the ability to do chesed achnasas archim. So listen to this. V'hari yadua. Listen to how beautiful this is. So now, writes the Rebbe like this. So piece number 1 is that time is going by. Avram Avinu wants more than anything to perform this mitzvah, but he can't. So when you want to perform a mitzvah, but are precluded from doing so because of circumstances beyond your control, HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it as if you did the mitzvah. But then the Rebbe introduces another idea. He says, V'hari yadua shemikol mitzvah shemekaimin nivra malach. It's so beautiful. The Rebbe says, we know that every mitzvah you perform, you create a malach, you create an angel. Every mitzvah a yid performs creates a malach, creates an angel. Gam mihishtoka kuso shel Avram nivru malochem ki'ilu kaim b'poel. So therefore the Rebbe says, if you combine these two concepts, it's not only every mitzvah that you do that creates a malach, but again, yearning to do a mitzvah, but being precluded from doing so because of circumstances beyond your control is counted as if you performed the mitzvah, and therefore that yearning also creates malachim, just like the performance of the mitzvah itself. So not only does the performance of a mitzvah create additional angelic presence, additional malachim, but a desire to perform a mitzvah and being precluded from doing so count as a mitzvah and therefore also produces malachim. And therefore says the Rebbe something, get ready for this, get ready for this. B'yom hashlishi, gadol tzar shel Avram alavonuso. Comes the third day. Avram Avinu's pain reaches its apex. It's not only his physical pain, it's his spiritual pain about not being able to go ahead and perform mitzvah of chesed, of hachnasas archim. 3 days have gone by, says the Rebbe, and we'll see, we're going to back into that in just a moment. 3 days have gone by and he hasn't been able to perform the mitzvah. So what happened? What happened on day number 3? Miyad shiger alava kodesh baruch hu es shloshes hamalochim shenivru mishtagakuso l'kaim hamitzvah b'shloshes yamim. So this is so beautiful. On day number 3, 3 angels. Now again, the Torah identifies them as men. V'nei shlosha anashim. But we know they're not men. They're angels. They're angels. And says the Chart Rebbe, where did these angels come from? They were created from the yearning of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu has been yearning for 3 days to perform mitzvos, but yet he hasn't been able to do so. 3 days to do chesed, no opportunity. 3 days to do achnasas archim, no opportunity. Finally, on 3 days, the yearning hits such a zenith, an apex. It hits such a height that HaKadosh Baruch Hu almost has no choice but to relent. But that yearning, remember, when you want to do a mitzvah and are precluded from doing so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it as if you did it. And every single mitzvah you perform creates malachim. And so on day number 3, who shows up to Avram Avinu? Vayar, v'nei shlosha anoshim, 3 men, but they weren't men, they were angels. And it was Avram Avinu, says the chart cover, who created those angels. It was Avram Avinu who created those malachim. How? Through his yearning to perform the mitzvah of chesed, the mitzvah of hachnasas archim, through his yearning to want to give, to want to do. The Rebbe says, Ki alo be'etzem chavtzo lahachnis archim u'mechevan sheba'u shlosha malachim u'mechuvan nimtzu lemeidim shezeh hisrachish b'yom hashlishi. So Shadkar Rebbe says, do you want to know how you know that this whole episode came on the 3rd day after Bris Milah? From the fact that there were 3 malachim. 3 malachim created because Avraham Avinu was yearning for 3 days to do chesed. Each day that yearning created a malach. Each day that yearning counted like a mitzvah. Each day that yearning created an angel. And so when HaKadosh Baruch Hu finally appears to Avraham Avinu on the day that the malachim show up, that must have been that was the 3rd day. Such a magnificently beautiful idea. So again, Rashi says, Chum says it was the 3rd day because it makes sense that Hashem visited Avraham Avinu on the day when his pain was most acute. The chart Kavod Rebbe says, how do you know it was the 3rd day? Because 3 malachim came. And where did those malachim come from? Each malach represented a day of yearning to perform the mitzvah of chesed. And when you yearn to do something but are precluded from doing so because of extenuating circumstances, HaKadosh Baruch Hu counts it as if you perform the mitzvah. And the performance of every single mitzvah creates a malach. So says the chart cover, how do I know that Parshas Vayera is occurring on the 3rd day post-circumcision? Because 3 malachim showed up. 1 malach corresponding to each day that Avraham Avinu yearned, pined, desired to do chesed, hachnasas archim, to give to the other, but was precluded from doing so. But even though it was precluded, the machshava, the intensity of his desire counted like the mitzvah, and every mitzvah creates a corresponding malach. A beautiful idea on so many levels, but on the most basic level, Chavra. If we think about it as follows, if the power of yearning creates malachim, then the power of doing, we can only imagine what that creates. See, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks of us is almost like this dialectic, that on one hand, we're an actional religion, and it's all about doing. But sometimes in life you can't do, for a variety of reasons, right? There might be circumstances beyond my control, either external circumstances, internal circumstances. In the absence of the ability to do, there's the ability to yearn. There's the ability to want to do. And that yearning is powerful. That desire is powerful. Sometimes in life, I know the person I want to become, but for whatever the reason, I can't get there yet. Maybe it's legitimate reasons, maybe it's not legitimate reasons. Maybe it's external reasons, maybe it's internal reasons. Maybe other people are holding me back, maybe I'm holding myself back, whatever it might be. But just sometimes I can't get to where I want to get to. And that's where yearning comes in. And that's where desiring something bigger for yourself comes in, even if you can't bring it to fruition, even if you can't execute. That yearning, that pining, that wanting to be better is so powerful that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes even counts it as if it was a mice, as if it was an action. And even yearning could create malachim. But at the same time, yearning is not enough. We have to do. It's not enough to want. I have to produce. It's not enough to have a vision. I have to execute. And it's not enough to yearn or to pine. I have to create spiritual life deliverables. I have to do. I have to produce. But how incredible is it that if a yearning and desire creates malachim, then imagine what our actions are able to do as well. And this idea just resonated with me on so many levels. I guess on one level, as we're more than 400 days into this war, and it's overwhelming a little bit. It's overwhelming. And I think a lot of times we become maybe a little bit fatigued, or maybe even, dare I say, a little bit disillusioned. Davening so much, doing so many mitzvahs, taking on so many kabbalahs, and yet our hostages still have not been returned. Our soldiers are still away from their families, giving their lives. Akidushas Hashem ha'am v'ha'aretz. Sometimes I wonder, what am I doing? What am I doing? And comes the Chart Kavareb and says, don't lose hope. Open up Parshas Vayera and remember that every single thing you do creates malachim. Everything you do creates. It's not just about the fact that when I do good things, I make a better version of me. That's true also. But when I do good things, I mamish create new angelic presence in this universe. When I desire for more holiness, when I desire to be better, I create malachim. And when I do, I create malachim. And we never know the impact that has on the cosmos, the impact that has on the universe, the impact that has on our world. And sometimes our job is just to keep desiring, to keep yearning, to keep pining, to keep doing, to keep producing malachim. And halavai, our actions, the malachim that we create, some way, somehow, should continue to tilt the scales in the favor of Am Yisrael. We never know which malach brings home the hostages. And we never know which malach protects our soldiers. But just know, just be assured, says the chart cover, that everything we do has positive, meaningful, and holy repercussions and ramifications. Every desire and every action produces the most beautiful of malachim. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.